You're listening to the extended version of the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast.
Mark Who 42 Universe.
Hi, I'm #1 New York Times bestselling author Tony Lee, and you're listening to Mark Who 42.
Welcome to Mark Who 42, the best podcast / radio show / listen to a bunch of people talk out certain areas on the internet. I am your host for today, Eduardo M, and with me is
Vicky Jakubowski.
Yep, and news. You're going to be listening to the two of us gush this whole time. Maybe if he behaves, we'll let Mark out of the box.
Maybe,
but for now,
just
he's in
maybe.
the box. Just maybe. Just maybe. He's not in the big box, but we put him in a box.
He's just watching and making sure that you and I behave, honey. You know we have a tendency to go on and on and on.
Behave. You're funny.
I know, aren't I? You're going to get me into trouble. Now stop it. But what are we talking about today, Ed?
Okay, well, today we are going to be talking about the recently completed, completed second season. It's not done yet. It better not be done yet. Star Wars,
no, there better be a third season now.
Oh, yeah, please. There has to be a third season. There has to be a third season, and if it's only going to be a third season, then it better not end in a cliffhanger.
No, that's not allowed.
Cliffhangers. No, that is not allowed. This is not something owned by Discovery. This is something owned by Disney. We don't end on cliffhangers. We actually give the whole story, please, dear. Don't even start. Don't even start.
I know that was bad of me.
What is the Bad Batch? The Bad Batch is a CGI animated series set in the Star Wars universe that involves of clones that, well, they're kind of, I mean, what's the best way to say it? They're not your average clones. They each have their own individual personalities. Even physically, they look different from each other.
Yes.
And yeah, they, in the aftermath of the events of Revenge of the Sith, they get their own individuality, and they're kind of questioning the post Clone Wars world.
Mm-hmm.
I think they didn't they first appear in the Clone Wars animated series? Isn't that where?
Yes. The first time we saw, I don't remember if it was all the characters, because it's now been a couple years since I watched all the Clone Wars. But they did. They appeared in the Clone Wars, and then there is references to them later, Rebels. So it's after Clone Wars, the animated series, but before Rebels, the animated series.
Yeah, well, the first episode has a sequence that takes place arguably in the closing stages of Star Wars Episode 3. Because we do have Order 66.
It was interesting to see that from the clones' perspective, too.
Yeah.
Because the Bad Batch, being specialties, I like the term the Bad Batch, because they're not a bad batch of clones. They're actually specialties. All except for one was designed that way. One of them by accident. So of course they're going to be a little bit different than any of the other clones. But boy, that was interesting in some of the, like in Clone Wars, the animated series, in Revenge of the Sith, and even a little bit in Rebels, when you think about it, we're seeing the events that happened at Revenge of the Sith from all these different angles. And the Bad Batch actually, I think, is the first time where we truly see it from the viewpoint of the clones.
Well, and even then, it's unique because it's not about, it's these clones. These aren't
Yeah.
the typical clones who basically, once Order 66 hit, they were just like, okay, kill the Jedi. These clones were like, well, wait a minute. Really? This seems kind of, this does not seem right. Of course, we do have Crosshair, who's like, orders? It's like, yeah, but do we really? I mean, it's orders, but it feels wrong. And, Crosshair's just like, doesn't matter, orders. It's,
and, that is something that is so, it's interesting throughout both seasons watching Crosshairs, who had a much longer journey than anybody else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it seems, and it was interesting when it got revealed, like at the end of the first season, it got revealed that at first it's like, oh, did Crosshairs get brainwashed? Like, was he reprogrammed, and this is why he's so single-minded? And it turns out, no, he is a true believer, and he is someone who truly believes, look, the right thing is to just follow orders. But it was interesting in season 2 that he's starting to realize maybe, it's like, yeah, maybe just following orders isn't, maybe that's not the end all be all. I thought the one episode that focused on him, where he joins in on this expedition to, to like an Imperial outpost, that contains the most growth. And what kind of helped is that his new superior was, well, the massive jerkwad. It's like, seriously, the guy, almost from the minute the guy started speaking, I'm like, dude, are you trying to wear a big sign that says "frag me"? Because
yes, he was. No,
it's like,
but we had to, we'd be jumping ahead if we explain how he finally gets his due. But yay!
Yeah. The other, I think, probably the other great character, for me, is also Omega.
Yes.
The young clone, especially because she's like this weird mix, because she has a certain innocence about her. But then
she looks like a child.
She looks like a child, and she just has this innocence, and yet she's hanging around with these guys and seeing all this, and somehow she still keeps that innocence. Like, somehow it's still there.
You kind of wonder if there was, so Omega, now it helps for people to understand that Alpha later becomes Boba Fett. And we all know about Alpha because we see him in the movies. And then later we see him as Boba Fett, and then the book of Boba Fett. But he's Alpha, and he was different from the rest of the clones because he was to be grown at a regular rate and be more like a child to Jango, as opposed to the rest of the clones, who were rapid growth from embryo to adulthood to become super soldiers. So Omega is kind of the reverse. Omega has existed as long as Alpha has, and that's part of her appeal to the Empire. But so, because she actually talks about being there when the Bad Batch was created, being there when things happened. So she looks young, she looks innocent. She's actually old. I guess old is not really a term at this point because it's not that old. But I can't help but wonder, was she programmed for because she assisted the Doctor, for an inquisitive nature, a caring nature. She has all the excellence of a bedside manner doctor, good bedside manner doctor, and then all the curiosity of a research doctor. So I can't help but wonder, and I realize it's completely my assumption, was she bred to kind of be this way?
Interesting. No, that is an interesting theory. I mean, to me, it's how she's able to keep that sort of childlike, sense of wonder while hanging out with these guys, especially given some of the stuff that she's seen. Like she saw her home obliterated,
and you have to
she
know
really
that
hasn't been hard for that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Even if it had negative memories for her, which she did comment that she was uncomfortable around the facilities after having left, there was still it was obvious, and I really have to commend the animators because I think they did an amazing job of evoking emotion in these character faces. So I kind of felt like I was watching more actual actors because you see in her face the pain, the confusion, the sorrow, the angst, all of that all mixed together. Nice job, because that's hard enough as an actor to do, but for someone to draw that and I feel that from the character, nice.
Yeah, and actually speaking of, I mean, you bring up actors, and I gotta give credit to D. Bradley Baker.
Oh my gosh,
for the fact that he is voicing, most of the time between 3 and 4 characters, and giving them each like unique, a unique voice, a unique, it's
I knew that
to
going
me, it's like, holy cow,
in. And even I was like, wow, it's hard enough to be a voice actor, but then to be each one of those characters, because he plays the Bad Batch. He plays them all.
The whole thing, yeah.
He plays a few other random clones throughout. And every single one of them sounds absolutely different. I know I don't even have to look up to know when it's Wrecker talking versus Hunter versus Tech. It just, they have a completely different cadence in their voice. Most people can't do that with 1 or 2 voices, let alone 4+ in any given episode. Massive kudos. That is just phenomenal. And without him able to do that, I don't think it would be as good, because I don't think you would have bought it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And by the way, Wrecker is, at least in my house, Wrecker is our favorite Bad Batch, is our favorite Bad Batcher. It's actually kind of funny because we think of Wrecker and we think of
Goonies.
I mean, are you familiar with, actually not Goonies, Critical Role?
Oh!
Vox Machina, the the barbarian. It's that character in freaking, if he was in freaking Star Wars. And it gets even funnier because we've played, all of us have played D&D before.
Right.
And my brother-in-law, Billy, his go-to character is very much like a Wrecker type. It's very much kind of a, very, very much like just, swing the axe and, don't ask, it's just like, can we hit it now?
Yes.
Yes.
He's everyone who says, can we hit first and then ask questions later, please? Yeah. He uses that brute strength, but then he's got the heart of a child.
Yeah.
So
it's not
sweet.
even, you know what? I would say it's not even, can we hit now and ask questions later? It's just, can we hit it now?
That's true.
Like,
you could screw the asking questions later. Let's just hit now.
Yeah.
It's and it's always they'll say something. Okay, now record. Now you can hit. He's like, finally, wham!
Yes. Grab the grab the huge cannon and just be like, and now stuff blows up.
And now stuff. I love that. That is so sweet. And it just, when you think about it, I think the reason that the Bad Batch as a squad of clones is so successful is because they were engineered to be the best, because you kind of can't have all those qualities in one character. One person cannot embody all of that. So the clones were developed to be a universal best soldier and to minimally, just always obey orders, minimal individuality. As a matter of fact, I think it's Tarkin makes a crack about how the Jedis wanted too much individuality with them, which is why they ultimately won't work, because now they're going against us. But they created these characters that now is the Bad Batch, because you can have the best of everything. So Wrecker, let's be honest, he's the Hulk without Bruce Banner's brain. And
yes,
and Hunter is both the leader and the brooder. He carries the world on his shoulders, but it makes him a better leader. Then you've got Tech, who is not only super intelligent, but I feel like he can fix anything. Echo is just this amazing cyborg, and we all know we love a good cyborg. Oh well, and then even Crosshair being that sniper, being that single-mindedness. You put all of them together and you've got the best squad, the best soldier any military in action would ever want. And so that's why they are the most successful squad. Even if they're the squad of misfits and they're made fun of by the other clones, they have a better track record because they have every piece. And Omega is that last bit. She's the heart. She's the one that comes in and makes them perfect.
yes, yeah, no, definitely.
Okay, I might have thought about
say
this a little too much.
Yeah, well, no, you know what? That's fine. Honestly, that is no, it's better to think a lot than to than to be like, I likes the guy what blows stuff up.
What's wrong with that, though?
No, but sometimes we need a little bit more. Sometimes we do need a little bit more. I think
Yeah.
another character that catches my eye, and honestly, how their arc ended in season, in this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was expecting that, a little disappointing that it happened, but I was expecting it. You kind of saw it coming. Sid.
Yeah.
Sid, the one who spent a lot of times handing out assignments and being like, hey, you guys want to earn, a few quick credits? Can you do this? She does end up, end of the season, she does end up,
Although,
ratting out the Bad Batch.
The way that they drew her, you could almost see the guilt on her face and almost a smidge of remorse. So I kind of wonder where that will go if they bring her back. But what it made me think of was Lando in Cloud City.
Yep. Well, maybe not as noble as Lando, because Lando did Lando did stab Han in the back, but behind it, was Lando wanted to keep himself out of the Empire's hands. This was to ensure the safety of his people. I mean, he made a bad bet. Bad batch, bad bet. Haha. He made a bad bet, but it's not, Sid was just, it's more about her operation.
Yes.
And it would be one thing. It would be one thing if her operation also involved, smuggling, food and supplies to refugees.
Yeah.
But we don't see that. Instead, it's just, I'm just running
it's pretty much
something
just
off
her.
books. Yeah, it's pretty much just her, and it's pretty much I'm running something off book, and I want to keep it off book. So if you show up here with heat on your backs, I got to throw you to the wolves. And she did. That look on her face was kind of like, I hate to do this, but I got to do this.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of like, and I actually think what happened to Tech, which we will get into later, I think that did kind of give her a little bit of remorse. But at the end of the day, she's like, sorry, I gotta,
It's the fable of the scorpion and the frog.
Yeah.
And it's just, the scorpion talks the frog into taking them across the river. Halfway across the river, the scorpion stings the frog and says, well, what do you expect? It's my nature. And the fact that it took so long for Sid to truly stab them in the back actually is a little bit of a surprise that she was able to retain her almost humanity and almost a mother hen type approach that she kept trying to hide, but she did. When you think about every adventure and job she sent them on, it was ultimately to make herself money. Every single time when you look back, you realize there was no altruistic events, there was no really caring about other people. Even some of the stuff that appeared that way, like I think about when she wanted to save a senator, it was all about money for her, because she takes the senator in the back room and says something like, let's talk about price now.
Yeah. Well, also, it wasn't just money. It's like, hey, you save a senator's life. It's like that can,
now you have a senator in your pocket.
Yeah, you got to sit in your pocket. So, if the wrong kind of people are snooping the wrong area, you could just be like, hey, that bill that's, supposed to affect taverns in the Outer Rim? Could you I know you're not interested in it. Yeah. Yeah. Or it's like, I'm pretty sure you're not interested in that. So you could probably stall it because there's other things you want to focus on, right?
Yes.
Nudge, nudge.
Yes. Nope, Sid is in it for herself. So
but
so on that note, we're probably going to have to take a break.
No, I don't think. No, I think we still got.
Not yet.
Still got.
Oh, we still got a minute.
We still got a few.
Look at me jumping the gun. Smack me around.
Yeah. I don't do.
Okay, 40 lashes with a wet noodle for me. So to quote Ann Landers.
Tell you what. I'll do like that nun or whatever in Game of Thrones and just walk behind you with a bell going, shame, shame, shame.
I earned it. Shame. It's okay. It's fine.
And don't worry, you don't have to get it. Yeah, no, we're not going to cut the hair this time. You can keep your hair this time, definitely. But yeah, great assessment. I think also about her as being the scorpion, and we'll see if she shows back up. Well, first of all, if she shows back up, number one, how are the Bad Batch going to react?
Right.
Whoever's left. And then two, what's going to happen to her? Is she going to kind of be like, hey, we'll... It
will be very interesting to see where that goes and where that relationship, because she's been such an integral part of the first two seasons. Would you have a season 3 without her? Or will she just fade into the background as she's now, done this, and unless they're out for revenge, we're never going to see her again.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And we did have her off stage for a while when the Bad Batch did go to that one planet, and they were kind of thinking it's like, do we just?
They were thinking it was time to stop.
Yeah, kind of time to and it's like, so that's a great test of whether or not we can have Sid back. Although I think now we actually have reached the moment where we go to, we do, I think, have the time where we reach the moment where we go to commercial. But you know what? Stick around, because we'll be talking more Bad Batch. And, I said we're going to be talking about tech later. So,
we'll talk about tech. We'll talk about a lot of the interesting things we learned in this season 2.
Oh yeah, no, and of course we can even talk about some fun cameos.
Yes.
So, yeah. Yeah, including a certain director of a certain project that popped up in the final episode.
I love
So
it.
yeah, just stick around. Stick around. We have more.
Don't go away. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Oh, hey, I got something.
Since 2009, we have been the premier cartoon podcast here at the Geekcast Radio Network. We are Tooncast. From taking you beyond the cartoons we grew up with to seasonal saucy toon talk, and now we get the origins of toonsters everywhere as we ask guests 30 questions about their cartoon watching experiences, plus so much more. Tooncast is back. Join me, TFG and Mike, and the rest of the GCRN crew as we give you all the toon talk you will ever need, only on the GCRN, and wherever you consume your podcasts. We are beyond good, beyond evil, beyond your wildest imagination. We are all tunes all the time here on Tooncast.
Yeah. You are listening to Mark Who 42's Universe.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Did you have a good commercial break? Did you go tinkle? Did you refill your snack? How's it going?
I'm refreshed
we're
and
back.
ready to go again. I don't know about you.
Oh, I'm always fresh. I'm so fresh you gotta slap me silly. No.
We're gonna get ourselves in trouble here.
Most likely.
Most likely, yeah. That's what we
Most likely,
do.
I'm gonna take you down with me.
Okay. Back to the Bad Batch.
Back to the Bad Batch. So yeah, we were previously on the Bad Batch. We were talking a little bit about characters.
Mhm.
We talked, of course, about we talked about the bad, we talked about Omega, we talked about
Yes.
how awesome D. Bradley Baker is at voicing
Yes.
multiple characters. We talked about we talked about some of the we talked about Sid, poor Sid. Well,
Yeah.
actually, poor Sid nothing. Poor Sid
Nope.
nothing. Poor poor the guys that have to poor the guys that got that got betrayed by Sid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think the Bad Batch themselves, I just got to say though that the I'm thinking, I think about I think it's interesting. One of the interesting things for me though is how this season has progressed. Like we did lose Echo at one point.
Yes.
Well, not quite lose, but
he decided
he
to
did
join
go-
what we now know as the Resistance.
yeah, we did. He joined
With
up
Captain
with
Rex.
Yep, he did join up with Captain Rex. Which, by the way, it's cool seeing Rex. One of the things
Yeah.
that I thought is interesting about about Bad Batch is since it takes place so soon after the soon after the events of episode 3.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we get to see the Empire at its
Infancy?
it's yes, exactly. This is the Empire before it it's just started to become the monolith
Yes.
that we know and love. It for me, it's like that to me kind of really it really gives me something because it now gives like a you have like a whatchamacallit, one of the things is that it's something that goes with Andor and with Andor and with Obi-Wan, in the sense that
Obi-Wan, absolutely.
We're getting a look at this galaxy before before the events of the original trilogy. So and this one we get a look at things at their infancy, at their most, at the beginnings. We get this interesting, it's because like Andor, and even maybe a little bit of Andor, one of the things we got to see the whole kind of banality of evil as far as the bureaucracy and things.
Yes.
With Bad Batch, we're getting a look at things.
Seat.
Oh, ringside seat for actually the beginnings of this.
Yes.
Something though, the last episode had there was a moment. One of the big plot was having this conference.
Yes.
Where where you had this conference where these imperial monkey mucks are all getting together, which by the way had one of my favorite it had probably one of my favorite things, in that we had a cameo appearance by Director Krennic from Rogue One. We kind of saw him, we got to see him like before we got to see him like before the events, of the movie. And
yes.
It's funny because it's kind of funny because Tarkin and Krennic just kind of felt it was interesting watching them together, because they had they were actually like civilized with each other. They actually you didn't have
before the
kind of back and
whole,
forth.
True jealousies and rivalries that we later see in Rogue One. They're still kind of feeling each other out, trying to figure out who's going to truly be in charge of what, where. Well,
and also like at this point, Project Stardust is pretty much not, it's not the completed murder death ball that we know and love.
Right.
It's still kind of in its infancy, so we don't have that. We don't have that kind of we still don't have, so Krennic probably doesn't have his he doesn't have that that sense of grandeur, that sense of this is awesome. This is awesome. This murder death ball. This is my murder death ball. Nobody else can have it. I get full credit for it. So it's kind of
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I also view it very much as especially the last two, but I noticed it all season 2. What struck me was, being a history buff and looking at the formation of Nazi Germany from World War I forward, and kind of how those things happened. And of course, looking back, it's very easy to see that line that takes you from A to B. When you're living in the middle of it, you don't see that, you don't feel that, it's there's a lot of talk, especially in the beginning, that, well, maybe the empire's not going to be that bad, maybe this is all going to be for the better, because everything sounds good. But when I sat there with the summit and the final 2 episodes, I was so struck by actual historical events that happened just as Nazi Germany truly came to power. And you see the infighting. You see, you've got the Doctor Hemlock. Great name, by the way, because Hemlock, of course, being a deadly nightshade. But there's also the fact of Hemlock reminds me of Mengele, and Tarkenton is very much Goebbels. And you listen to them talk and you listen to their words. And I do want to go to the writers and go, so did you just go back and read some of these meetings that happened in 1938 or what?
You know what? It's funny you should mention that, because with the summit, what I got was there was there's like an infamous meeting that happened like in a chateau, like in the Alps, between Nazi head Nazi officials, where they were talking about stuff like, for example, they were talking about the final solution, and it was done just as a sort of like a little board meeting, sort of like a little just very banal. And that, to me, that's one of the things that kind of gets me, with this. It's like it feels like it does feel a lot like it, in the sense that we have this kind of, again, banality of evil.
Yes. And I think
where
that
it's all it's all about it's just all like it's this whole big thing where it's like, oh, we're going to we're talking about this, but it's not, there's no mustache swirling about it,
right.
and the sense
just
that
that's
there's
how
even
evil is in real life, is just they're not usually all wearing the mustache and the black cape and the black hat. It's not as obvious, which is why I think that it takes the Bad Batch 2 seasons to finally get to the point. And I really think it's in right before the finale, when they're on that island world and they're meeting all these refugees, and how the stuff that they're collecting is not stuff of value except to their culture and to their lives in that manner. So now you have it where you go back and you look at this and you go, oh my gosh, these are people that are just trying to avoid tyranny, complacency, and the Bad Batch. It's almost like finally, where they've just been making excuses the whole time, finally go, oh, it's possibly we need to do something more than just protect Omega and survive as a group. We maybe Echo was right. Maybe we need to be doing more. Maybe we're just sitting on the sidelines, just being Switzerland is not good enough. Maybe we really need to be involved and be cognizant, and because if you do nothing, are you complacent?
Well,
it's an age-old question.
I mean, it's not even like being Switzerland or not doing anything. It's trying to stay the soldier route.
Yes.
And it's like, maybe you have to, maybe it's all about evolve. That's one of the things about Echo's journey. Is I think of all the Bad Batch, he's the first one to realize, okay, maybe it's time for like a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Maybe we put the warrior away and we become something else.
And isn't it funny that you have the one that has the least human parts? Because I think in season 1, someone makes a comment about how he's more machine than human. Sound familiar? And it just, he has the least amount of human bits, but he's the first one to recognize the humanity of the situation. And you kind of go, ooh, this really is deep.
And I mean, even, and it's like, I think even there are other guys, like I think Tech realizes it as well.
Yes.
But his approach is a bit more analytical. It's a bit more logical.
Yes.
Like logic dictates that, we shift priorities. And I just got to say, I mean, spoiler alert, he seems apparently, I only say apparently because we have yet to see a body, it seems like he's the first of the Bad Batch to sacrifice his life.
Yes.
In this new,
which is a very different concept from in general, the soldiers, although there is sacrifice that happens as clones because you're doing the mission, you're following the orders, whatever. But this is a case where someone has chosen to individually, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the greater good. And this is what I'm going to do, which is very different than following orders, which is, as they become more and more individualistic, as they become more and more human, they become better as a team. And of course, the loss of tech now, yes, I am secretly hoping that because there was no body found, that we're going to have a Bucky situation where somebody finds him.
Well, and I know that Hemlock threw the smashed goggles at Hunter and was like,
but maybe that's all they found of him because they didn't find him.
Yeah. Or, of course, the other thing could be that Hemlock was just being a jerk.
Well,
that
what?
He was just trying to needle, he was just trying to needle,
yes.
Hunter.
And knowing Hemlock's personality, of course.
Yeah,
and
like he could have.
Yeah.
Tech could easily be alive, and either Hemlock, he evaded, the Imperial patrols, or Hemlock has him locked up in another room,
just like he has
Crosshair, Crosshair, and now Omega, Yeah, ending it with Omega. Omega is a captive of the Empire. They've been.
They've been trying to get her forever, which again, everything about this discussion is a spoiler. So I think people figured that out by now. But the fact is that we learned, actually, I think it was in season 1, that she contains, she is a primary the same way that Boba, the Alpha, is, and they contain genetic material that is not degraded. So if they're going to continue the clone lines, they need material that's inside of her body to be able to continue doing the clones. That's why the Prime Minister wanted her so badly, and now the Empire wants her. Well, the Empire actually thinks that they want her to make the Doctor take her cloning specialties and make it even better. Which, I can't help but wonder, as they're talking about the secret stuff, the Emperor wants, blah, blah, blah. I feel like we're leading to episode 9 when we find out about the Emperor and everything else. I mean, you just feel like, he wants to live forever. He's the Emperor.
Yes. And actually, and you know what? It would be interesting, because if that's where we're leading, it's
got to be, right?
I hate to use this term, but if that's where we're leading, it would fix one of the problems with episode 9, which is the fact that all we know about the Emperor's return is he, pulls an old chestnut out of the fire by going, the dark side of the Force can lead to things some would feel are unnatural.
No, what it really leads to is that we can strong arm people with amazing technologies. And she even says, well, what he wants can't be done. And Hemlock goes, we'll figure it out. And
So it's like,
you kind of go, well, then that would make sense when you think about the number of years that then passes. And everything we do know, because then, we've got Rebels that starts about 10, 11 years later. And then Rebels ends pretty much right as Rogue One and episode 4 begins. It's just, and you can start to see where some of this stuff would come together, and it would probably take decades for them to create this technology.
Yeah, and it could even, they could, we could just as easily, within a Bad Batch season 3, or maybe even or season 2, see seeds of episode 9 pop up. Like we could hear the like, I found my summer home. We could have yeah, it could be that all this cloning, it's about the Emperor having some standby bodies. Because I remember in the old continuity, in like the pre-Disney continuity,
Yes.
that the Emperor got into cloning because using the dark side of the Force really taxes the body.
Yes.
So his body was facing burnout. So he was like, okay, I got to do the clone thing. I got to do the clone thing. I got to put a bunch of clones together because
it would make so much sense when you think about his fight with Mace Windu, how he really barely survives. Yet then, fast forward, at that time we knew about 4, 5, and 6, of course, because they came first in release dates. Well, if that one act aged him and harmed him so much, so quickly, how did he make it through 4, 5, and 6? Well, that would make sense.
How is he still
There's
around?
special something going on that's extending his life, that's extending his ability. I mean, the man has 9 lives. It actually starts to make more sense, especially when you start to realize all the different levels, and I love the way that we've got these interconnections. We've got the Tale of the Jedi, we've got Andor, we've got Obi-Wan, we've got Rogue One. All of these bits and pieces, TV shows and movies, are bringing us not only this bridge between 3 and 4, but it's also bridging us to 7, 8, 9. And I think that I appreciate the storytelling. I appreciate the connections, because too often people go off onto tangents, and it's like, okay, if that's a one-off like Solo, that's fine. It doesn't have to be completely interconnected. But if you're going to tell a story that's going to tell this saga, then I want to see the connections. I don't want you to go off on a tangent that goes to left field. Some of them I can deal with and I can just reconcile in my head, but I love this because I'm like, ooh, now I'm starting to feel, I got the goosebumps,
Yeah. No, no, definitely. And, and I mean, we even connected to Rebels and stuff because we have Captain Rex. It does make me wonder, though, that, because I remember that when Rebels ended, while it did not pull the trigger and definitively say yes, that it did heavily imply that Captain Rex was the bearded rebel trooper on Endor in Return of the Jedi. Like, they didn't out and out, if I remember correctly, they didn't out and out say, yes, he was, but the implication was heavily pushed. It then kind of makes me wonder that, after Bad Batch ends, will they do the same thing that happened in Rebels, where they will indicate that the Bad Batch was around in the background of events that we've seen? So, like, will Hunter, will we see Hunter in like cold weather gear rallying rebels at the Battle of Hoth?
Okay, that would be cool. Yeah.
Will we find out that Echo was on board Admiral Akbar's cruiser during the Battle of Endor? Was Wrecker one of the rebel troopers on Endor?
And that would be so cool because you feel like it I like that. Not because it makes it nice and neat and tidy, but I love it when they tell me, and here's what they're doing now, sort of thing. I enjoy that aspect.
It would be kind of really cool. It would be kind of really cool if one of the or like another cool thing. Oh, maybe Hunter or Wrecker or Echo or a revived Tech or even Omega. Imagine if we find out that one of them was at the controls of that U-wing that came to help out Andor's group in Rogue One. we just see, we get like a redux of, that U-wing showing up and that creature, with the side gun, but then it pans and we see like who's in the cockpit. There's Hunter, and it's like, I'm going around for another pass. It's
Yep.
Yep.
I would
And of-
love that.
yeah.
I'm okay with that.
And of course,
they can absolutely do that.
and a part of me would just love if we have a scene with Hemlock where he goes to the Emperor. He's like, success, my lord. We've used
Yes.
the cloning technology, and then and it's like, and the Emperor just goes,
And then they go to
"And
that
how many?"
that
Yeah.
planet to set
Yeah,
him
Exegol.
up there, going future,
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, or at least have like, or at least have a thing where, the Emperor then says something along the lines of like, "And does anyone else know what we've done?" And Hemlock being like, "No, my lord, you and I are the only ones." And then the Emperor just going, "Good." And then all of a sudden, Hemlock starts choking and then just collapses to the ground. And then the Emperor just goes off chuckling. Mainly because I want that jerk to suffer.
Yes, he has to suffer. That's how his
suffer.
fate will be awful
Yep.
and terrible,
Yep.
and the Bad Batch will somehow connect with the future of the rebellion, because it's very clear that where we are now with the closing ending bits, we have a cliffhanger. What happened to Tech? Cliffhanger. What's going to happen with Omega? Cliffhanger. What the heck is this about the other doctor being her sister?
It's like, wait,
what? What happens with Crosshair? What happens with the guys? I want to know.
Yep.
And when are they going to tell us? They better have season 3.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, season 3. Okay. Not only do we better have a season 3, but hopefully it comes sooner rather than later. Because I don't know if I can handle, season 3 coming 2025. It's like, shut up.
Yeah, that's just mean stuff that they do. No, they can't do that.
Yeah,
but
no.
I think that clearly they've given us so many cliffhangers. I mean, I've seen soap operas with less, but ugh.
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely. This is, yeah, definitely.
Should we leave on a cliffhanger?
Oh my God!
And tell people to come find us later?
Let's see. How do we leave? Well, I mean, first of all, we do have to say that as far as Subspace Radio Network is concerned, yes, we have to do the usual thing and say goodbye to all our company.
Okay.
That said, however, remember that we do, this is the Mark Who 42's universe is ending here on Subspace Radio Network. But, join us, one of us, something entirely different. Sorry. Bad. Just join us like on our podcast feed, which is the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast, where we are going to have extra stuff. So
we're going to talk about more goodies.
We're talking more we're definitely talking more Bad Batch goodness. Definitely. This is not over.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Hello, geeks and geekettes. I'm Steve Megatron, and if you're looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of geeky topics, then check out Altered Geek. Altered Geek covers superheroes, Star Trek, pop culture, comics, film, television, animation, gaming, tech, and more. So check out Altered Geek and get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks every Friday on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, SoundCloud, Blog Talk Radio, and the Geekcast Radio Network.
So we're gonna keep talking. We're gonna keep talking Bad Batch.
Yes.
We're gonna keep talking Star Wars and Bad Batch. Because you know what? I'm having fun doing that. I'm having fun doing that, especially because I'm talking with you, Vicky.
Oh, well, thank you, honey. So what are we talking about next? I mean, my goodness.
Oh, geez. Let's
there
see
are
what
so
happened.
many
Oh my God.
things.
Are we? Oh
Now,
yeah.
I have to tell
definitely.
you, I always read other people's things and opinions with a grain of salt, because just because you didn't like it or did like it doesn't mean that I'm going to
Yeah.
feel the same.
Yeah.
And
Well, well, not to mention the fact that, unfortunately, we live in a land of
Trolls?
trolls, where it's like where the opinion can basically be like, if you don't like something, it's like,
Yeah.
OMG, this sucked. Oh,
Yes.
franchise. Disney, you suck.
It does kind of surprise me the way that people will take things to the nth degree. If you didn't like it, that's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things I like that other people don't. I have a very interesting and eclectic taste. But one of the things that I read, and it was actually a complaint, was that season 2 was more character driven. We learned more about the individual characters. There was less action in season 2 than than season 1. Although I would say that only by a little bit, personally. But I like the fact that we got to understand our characters more. We got to understand motivations. I mean, Crosshair's arc is so moving that here's someone that you were just you had to really dislike this person in season 1, because he decided, even once his chip was removed, he decided that being a soldier and following orders was more important than anything else. And what a sad state of being for him to be in. And then in season 2, we see him soften, but in his own way. It's not this massive, becomes a teddy bear. But I know. But it just, I love the characters.
Don't give Build-A-Bear ideas. Don't give Build-A-Bear ideas.
Build-A-Bear. Crosshair.
Build-A-Bear.
Hit him with your own weapon and sniper rod. Yep.
Well, and comes complete with voice going, we follow orders.
Hey, everyone. This is Mark Baumgarten. I'm interrupting the show. Hi, guys.
How dare you, sir?
Well, I've been listening, and I'm a little, not a voyeur, because that's looking. I guess I'm listening. What would that be? An horror? I don't know.
No, that's a whole nother thing in Harry Potter, honey.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Now that I'm thinking that, yeah. So I'm listening, and I have never seen Bad Batch. And to be honest,
you hear?
And to be honest, I've only watched the first 2 seasons of Clone Wars. So I am so far behind, and I never watched Rebels. So I am so far.
Okay, so right after this, Mark, you have homework. You are ordered to watch every animated season of everything Star Wars before I talk to you again.
Well, no. That's a great statement, and that's something I want to do, but for those who are listening in the show and are, like I was, and getting ideas of what the show is about, I want you guys right now to convince me, not with threats, but convince me why this show is worth watching, why I should watch it. Go.
Not with threats?
Not with threats. No, because I know what you can do.
Okay,
Ed, I know what you can say. I don't want to hear that.
Okay, you know what? Okay, so just hang on a sec, because I have to put away this ITO droid.
Okay.
Darn. I was looking forward to it. Darn it.
Shoot, we were gonna do full torture here.
Darn it. Yeah, which by the way, notice that this is the second time that an ITO droid has shown up.
Yes.
And for the second time, we do not get an idea on what it actually does. But it's like the fact that they don't, my wife, Patricia, she was like, finding out that the ITO droids, that what it is they do is just so horrifying that we can't see it. She's like, okay, now I have a lot more respect for Leia because of the fact that she was able to resist all the probing, and Vader was like, I can't get anything out of her. So, but
okay, so how are we going to
moving on? Yeah, moving on to convince Mark.
Yes.
To watch this. I just got to say that to me, one of the things is Bad Batch. We've been saying it, that one of the things about Bad Batch is just the fact that it. Okay, did you like Rebels? Did you see Rebels?
He hasn't seen Rebels.
I haven't seen. The first 2 seasons of Clone Wars. Oh, and of course I saw the Clone Wars, or was it the original thing?
The little shorts on the Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I saw those.
Okay. The thing that I was gonna say is that if you've seen, basically, okay, all right, new tangent. Did you like Obi-Wan?
Yes. I loved Obi-Wan.
Okay, you loved Obi-Wan. What about Andor?
Oh my God, that was amazing. Andor, I can't wait for season 2. Okay.
Okay, this is like those shows. Okay, this is like Andor.
Mm-hmm.
This is like Obi-Wan, in the sense that you get this great look at at the Star Wars universe before episodes 4, 5, 6. You get to see the world before the Skywalkers enter the picture in full. And even more so, what really brings this home is the fact that you get to see what the Star Wars galaxy looks like right after the Emperor was like, "Who wants a galactic empire?"
Yes.
I'm going to call myself Emperor and wear these long, dark robes.
Don't I
It'll
look
be
fabulous?
awesome. It'll be awesome. The new fashion trend is everyone wears these robes. It's going to be off the chain, as the young folks say. It's just, I would say that is good. Not to mention great performances.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We've got, we have, and hey, we also have like a great guest voice cast. Ming-na-wen.
And we have some characters come back.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Ming-na-wen comes back as Fennec Shan.
Okay.
Mhm.
So we get Fennec Shan again. Wasn't Ernie Hudson in an episode?
Oh, good heavens. I can't remember. I lost track.
Was
There are
he in an
so
episode?
many
I feel
good.
like there's just so
Freddie
many,
Prinze Jr. comes back
Freddie-
in season
we get-
1 for
we get his character as a
from Rebels.
we get his
So
character
you
from Rebels
get
as a
all
Padawan.
of these
Yeah.
lovely arcs. So you know how in everything you watch,
Mhm.
there's always more plot points you would like fleshed out.
Right.
Andor is an A++.
Yeah.
This is an A-. It's still great. It's fabulous. I think we're going to have trouble doing anything as good as Andor ever again. I hope Andor 2, season 2, is as good as Andor season 1. But that was just so amazing that, if you had to rank things, it was still good. And having the additional point of view. So we've seen things from the movies. We've seen things from these live action TV shows. The advantage of these animated TV shows is that they go deeper and deeper into these crevices. So if you're somebody who wants to know more, maybe you read the comic books, maybe you read the books, maybe you've read some of the fan fiction. Well, this is official canon.
Okay.
And you can see, like in Rebels, you get to see some of the development of Leia and how she becomes who she is, because she's in Rebels in the later seasons. There's a lot of characters that you've seen in Andor, in Book of Boba Fett, in Mandalorian, in Obi-Wan, whose origins tie back to the Clone Wars, Rebels, and now Bad Batch. It's all connected. So you get more backstory, you get more points of view, which is really good. And I am loving the fact that in the last couple years, we've got more information about the formation of the Empire. And I think that both as a history buff and as a lover of Star Wars, that makes it so much better. It's like, I want to know this sort of stuff. I didn't even know some of the stuff I wanted to know that I've since learned. And now I can't wait to learn more, which is why we need a season 3, but you need to watch it. And, I would recommend going Clone Wars, then Bad Batch, then Rebels. But of course, you can watch it in the order it was released too. And it doesn't matter because it still does a nice job of, okay, Rebels came out and there's like how many years between the first 6 seasons of Clone Wars and the last one. And, it just, so they do little homages that remind you, it's like, oh yeah, I saw that in Rebels. Now that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yep.
You'll get so much of the beautiful backstory that you didn't even know you want. And you'll be so happy you took the time and you watched it.
Okay. Well, as you know, and folks out there, we'll be off for the next 2 weeks because I'm going to have a procedure on my back. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. But maybe during that time, because I was going to watch Picard season 3, I was going to watch Mandalorian season 3. If I will have extra time.
You'll have extra
time.
I
will watch Clone Wars.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if I'll get through Clone Wars, but if I do, I'll start. I think I'll go from Clone Wars to Bad Batch because I like watching things in chronological order.
Yeah.
So Rebels is a bit after that, so I'll get to that. But yeah, I can do that.
You won't regret it.
Because it sounds fascinating what you were talking about. Now, a character that I like from Clone Wars, Rex. Okay, and then we talked about Tales of the Jedi a couple of weeks ago, and Rex seems to be with Ahsoka. So he is on the good guys, the rebels side.
Yes.
How did this happen? Because I'm confused. He was because he. How does this happen?
Well, that's really in Clone Wars.
Without getting too many spoilers. Without giving a spoiler.
In Clone Wars, we learn about the inhibitor chips that activates the clones to go against the Jedi and make them perfect little soldiers.
There's an activator chip. I thought it was an order that they were
It was, but the order activated the chip in their heads.
Oh, okay.
And once that chip activated, which is why the Bad Batch, and the Bad Batch talks about that in season 1, where when they start to figure out, and it goes into it even more in season 2, that they still had chips, but Crosshairs was the only one that seemed to have any real minor activation at the time. And then it got amplified in season 1, and then he had it removed, and then it turned out he was just not a nice person and would always be a flat-faced soldier following orders. He talks about it all the time. These are our orders. These are our orders. Must do our orders, until he finds out that the people giving the orders are not worth our time. And then we see in Wrecker that he starts to get headaches, and it's because they need to remove his chip, because even though it's not activated, it's in there trying so hard to work. The Bad Batch had their chip activators damaged in the process of making them the special characters that they are, and making them the special one-offs that they are. So it affected their chips. Rex teaches them how to remove the chips, and they remove them all in one episode so that they're no longer affected by them. But that becomes a thing, and it's kind of implied that many of the clones who break off have their chips removed. And I know we've seen other science fiction stories like that, but Rex, we see Rex again in Rebels, and he's with a group of de-chipped clones who are on the outskirts helping and trying to help people and trying to do the right by people. They're kind of a quiet version of the Rebels.
Right.
And then, at the end of Rebels, it's as Ed mentioned, it's insinuated he's there as one of the soldiers in Endor in episode.
It's like, I know. Did you It's like, Mark, you're familiar with, like you've seen Return of the Jedi.
Oh, come on.
And
Come on. Original trilogy is my favorite. Okay.
Yes.
But here's the thing. In
That's
Return of the
OG.
Jedi.
Yes.
Okay, in Return of the Jedi, if you notice, there is a rebel. One of the rebel troopers on Endor looks like this older gentleman with a white beard.
Okay.
And after Clone Wars came out and after Rebels came out, we had the character of Rex. A lot of people had a fan theory that's Rex.
Wow.
Yeah.
And while supposedly that trooper has been given a name and it's not supposed to be Rex.
Right.
The fan theory is that it is Rex. And the last episode of Rebels.
I don't see them really pushing, saying, no, it's not.
It's not. Yeah, they're just, It's like they didn't say anything. Like
They let
it's
the
not,
fan theory build.
They haven't shot it down, but the fan theory has gained traction that, it is Rex.
Yeah.
It is, it's Rex. And that, during, that was him during the Battle of Endor.
Cool. Very cool.
While it hasn't, it just hasn't, they just haven't pulled the trigger and definitively said, yes, it's Rex.
It's one of those things that
it's, I think, a great. Well, it is. I think it's a great
I think it will
piece
go from
of,
fan theory to, because there's been a few other times where they've either, and I don't know always when it's on purpose because sometimes they're a little cagey, but there's been a few times that they've allowed fan theories to fester and let it kind of slide into canon, is my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think that these clones become so much more important. And that is something you learn in the Bad Batch. It becomes very important to see, how did we go from droids to clones? We really learned that in the first 3 movies, 1, 2, and 3 episodes. And why the clones are so important. But we start to understand it a little bit better in Clone Wars and Bad Batch. And then in Bad Batch, we see the movement from clones to volunteers to conscription.
Yeah.
Which leads us then to the stormtroopers as they exist. And we see a very sneaky way that it looks like the clones, the Bad Batch, everybody who's working towards this endeavor. There's actually a movement, to slide a little ahead first, to get the clones to have a pension, to have them be recognized when they're decommissioned, that they're allowed to have a life. Very reminiscent. There are speeches that happen in the Senate that make me think of speeches that happened when soldiers were returning from Vietnam.
Yeah.
And even going as far back as World War II, and how do we recognize these soldiers we created? And instead they're viewed as property. But then you have all these good things happen, and the Emperor is able to twist that to say, see, we can't use clones anymore. They follow the leadership blindly, throws his own people under the bus, saying, oh, look, see this, see that. Oh, now we must move to stormtroopers. Stormtroopers are the future. And there is a few times where I felt that they got close to saying that the stormtroopers were not as good soldiers as the clones because they didn't have their accuracy and their ability to think on their feet that was bred into them.
Right.
And so the stormtroopers will never be as good as the clones were. It was quite funny, and you kind of go, hang on, what? Okay.
Well, I mean, the stormtroopers never seem to aim right. I mean,
well, that's a given.
They never,
That actually, I remember that became like a thing in the website TV Tropes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Where they were like, oh yes, this person's a graduate of the Stormtrooper Aiming Academy.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yes.
Or kind of like, I think the other one of my favorites is like this law of this kind of inverse law where it's like, if it's one hero versus like a ton of bad guys, the bad guys are going to have the worst aim in the world.
Always.
If it's like a bunch of heroes versus one bad guy, then yeah, the bad guy is going to be this, freaking beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the heroes are going to be up
It's
against
the
the
tropes.
wall.
It's required.
Yep.
But
So it's
I
like, so
like
yeah, I think, yeah. But actually, your thing, your thought, I'm just like, you know what? I dare, I dare either the makers of Bad Batch, or maybe have this be like a conversation piece in Andor. I dare them to have something where, yeah, a character goes, it's like, I'd be afraid of these guys, except they're nothing like the clones. The clones had great accuracy. These guys, like, look at that stormtrooper there. You can tell he's a young conscript. He's probably peeing in his pants right now.
yes.
Roger,
And it's funny because
Roger.
you think about about the robot soldiers that we had in 1, 2, and 3, and even in Clone Wars. And you look at them, and they were so, they made them by the millions because they were so expendable, and they were so, it just, you were throwing thousands upon thousands of robot soldiers at them. You didn't care how perfect they were because they were completely expendable. The clones were very expensive, and that came up several times in the Bad Batch, talking about when you had the Empire talking to the Prime Minister about how expensive his program is, and how much more he wants, and blah 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 blah. But with that expense came this amazing, perfect universal soldier. And then what do you do when you win the war? You don't want these perfect soldiers to be, your lackey soldiers, because they actually won't work that well. So, of course, they then have to go to the stormtrooper. And it's interesting, in the beginning, there's a couple of times that early volunteers, because remember, they're all thinking that the Empire is going to be good because they defeated the separatists. They stopped the war. The occupation will end. And then, of course, it just gets worse and worse.
Right.
It's the sneaky way that fascist governments have come in, because, oh, look, there are saviors. Oh, look, we're no longer going to have war. Oh, look, we're no longer going to have long occupation. Next thing you know, not only do we still have occupation, but they're just as bad as the last guy. And so in the beginning, they're able to get those volunteers. It doesn't have to be conscription. It doesn't have to be a draft, because they have enough volunteers. But there's a couple of times they question it, and they're dealt with appropriately. So nobody else says anything, and fear takes over.
Yeah, no, and also it's just the whole kind of, it's like, you got the fear, you got, and then you also back across, follow orders. I mean, just World War II, as a lot of Nazi atrocities are coming to light.
Yes.
You had guys saying, "But I was only following orders," and it's like,
yes,
dude, that's And then
at
there's
what point
another.
does that excuse no longer work?
Well, there's also in the book Band of Brothers.
Yes.
There's like a story about how there were somebody was asking how how these people, these soldiers, could stay at their posts while getting bombed, to which the soldier replied to the person who was asking him. He goes, "Your bombs are very persuasive. The officer behind me with a gun to my head, even more so."
Oh,
that is true.
Yeah.
Fear
I
is
shouldn't
a
have laughed,
great
but yeah.
motivator.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's this thing of like, I mean, we're we laugh right now, but it's like, there is a point where
There
it could be
is.
like, oh, it's here's your choices. You're scared. You're here. You're scared.
Yes.
Sorry you're scared, but
Here's what you got to do.
If you, it's like, here's your choice. Go into the field and fight.
Yeah.
Or I shoot you in the back of the head and you're a dead guy with wet pants and a head wound.
Yeah.
What do you want?
I have to
choose.
say that it is very interesting that if we didn't know about, if I hadn't watched Rebels, if I hadn't watched Andor and Obi-Wan and 4, 5, 6, and say I watched this for the very first time in chronological order, I could be convinced for a couple of episodes that the Empire and the Emperor really did have my best interest at heart. I could see how that could be so believable. You just, I mean, how many years did this war go on?
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, that is something that is a hallmark of any sort of dictatorship.
Yeah.
Is this sense of like, I'm, like, okay, to take a page from my personal life and my background. One of the ways that Fidel Castro was able to, have such a foothold in Cuba, is when his revolution started, he went, his what he targeted, he went to the rural part of the country. He went to farmers and stuff.
Yes.
He didn't, this didn't grow in a vacuum. He went to the farmers and he was like, oh, look at all the people in the city. Look at how corrupt they are.
Yeah.
Come with me, come with me because we're going to take care of the corruption. It
looks so believable.
I've spoken to people who visited the island and then went to the rural areas. And there, in the urban areas, there's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of, a lot of urban decay. The buildings are really in need of some TLC. You've got a lot of old buildings. If people have cars, the cars are like classic cars, but the inside is jury rigged. I mean, it's jury rigged so much. Han Solo and would probably look inside and go,
"Oh my God,
damn,
yes,
this thing's never gonna work." Yeah. But the thing is that out in the urban, out in the rural areas, it's different. In the rural areas, they're like, "Oh no, we're fine."
Yes.
And it's like that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like, a dictator isn't just gonna, a dictator's not Doctor Doom.
Right.
It's not, Cobra Commander. They're going to come in and they're going to be like,
cut and dry. It's never that.
Yeah, exactly.
They're usually very good.
Yeah, exactly. They, the people that they get to their side, they say the right things. They say the right words and they say the right, they put the right honey in the ear, and then you're there and you're like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no surprise that so much of fascism came in an attempt to either topple a monarchy or a monarchy feeling dictatorship.
Yeah.
That because oftentimes you've got the normal people, the everyday people, they're not feeling heard. They're not, things are only for the elite, the top 1%. Convince them that I'm here for you.
Yeah. And even it's like all you need, you don't even need a monarch, you don't even need like in France. You don't even need like in France where Marie Antoinette is let them eat cake.
Right. Doesn't even have to be that drastic.
All you need is just a population that's mad at something.
Yeah.
And then somebody to come over and go, yeah, you're mad because you haven't been able to do this. You haven't been able to do that.
And that's how most dictators and fascists have been able to get control in the history of the humankind.
Also, the thing is that what do? They find a convenient scapegoat. And they go,
always,
hey, are you PO'd because, you're PO'd because you can't put food on your table. Hey, look at this person.
Look at this person. And they're going to find someone that makes a great scapegoat. And you don't, it's the thing that's so fascinating. And it's one of the things that works in storylines such as Star Wars, because it so pulls from the real life. And we know that Lucas, when he was originally thinking of the Empire, he was basing it very much on Nazi Germany, because it really fit the thought. And of course, it's funny when you think back in the mid 1970s, World War II had only been over for a generation. Most of us who are going to go see Star Wars in 1977, it's our parents who were alive or at least born during World War II. So it was soon. And of course, then we went through Korea and Vietnam and the Cuban Missile Crisis. I mean, you look at all of this, boom, boom, boom. It makes sense that something like that would influence both Lucas and the people who came after him, because it's really, and I think that's one of the things that I particularly enjoyed about The Bad Batch is I felt like I was watching fascism be born and grow and be accepted by people until it was too late to stop it. Until we get to basically where we are in Andor, where we have a full-fledged resistance now because of the fact that there is no rights. The I'm going to protect you by taking away your rights. It's very successful argument, especially with the way that it's been handled throughout history.
Mhm.
We don't know that we're getting sucker punched until it's too late.
Yeah.
We humans miss it completely.
Well, and also it's sort of this devil's argument where it's this devil's argument where it's like, oh, do you want to be able to do this? Or do you want to be able to do this?
Yeah. And when people choose, they often go with it's kind of like, even when you hear more of the older generation, although I understand there's a bit of the newer generation in Russia, when everything fell, they had so convinced themselves that despite their poverty, despite the breadlines and everything else, it was still better under the previous, Brezhnev and everybody, than it was under this new quote unquote free, which is why so many people liked Putin, because it's like, that people enjoy being told, here's your loaf of bread. Here you are, you're safe and stable. You don't realize that you haven't received a paycheck in 5 years. You don't realize you think your basic needs are getting covered.
Yeah.
It's very sneaky and insidious. And that's exactly what the Empire is. They were very sneaky. The Emperor was a slow burn when you start to think about it. If you think about just the stories we've heard in Star Wars to date.
Okay.
He was very sneaky. How many years? Because, Anakin, for example, is a child in episode 1, but we already know that he is a Sith. We already know that he is a bad guy. We already know that he has been plotting and planning this. And then Anakin grows up into maybe his 20s. So at least a decade has passed, maybe more. And before he can become emperor, before we get to the end of Revenge of the Sith. And even then, when he does that speech, that is, by the way, broadcast in the early episodes of Bad Batch. So you know the timeline, you feel the timeline. As we get to the end of Bad Batch, we don't have a true sense of how much time has passed, but it took him a while to then create the laws to end the clones, create the stormtroopers. Oh, we need to protect ourselves, so now we're going to do this. He was really sneaky, and he was very patient with his evilness. Very patient. And the fact that we now know, going all the way to episode 9, he has no problem being patient to be the ruler of it all. And, people like that really freak me out. The ones who want power right now, and we had some characters like that in this, they don't end well.
Yeah.
They always end up losing because they're too impatient for the prize. And they eventually fall. They make a great scapegoat for the emperor from time to time.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you see, one of our own was bad. Now I must protect you. What?
Yeah.
I just, I've heard some conflicting things about the Bad Batch, and I think that I heard complaints that season 2 was too slow because there was a lot of character build and there was less action. But I mean, come on, there was less action by this much. It wasn't like there was no action in it. What's wrong with you people? And
yeah,
it's a great story. Sometimes people are only in it for the action, or they're only in it for the big stuff. I get that.
Yeah.
It's why some people don't like some of the TV series and the animated series, because they want that instant gratification you can get in a movie. Because even though our movies are all series of trilogy arcs, there's something instantaneous in all those movies.
Yeah.
So I get it. It may not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you want to see how the Empire was formed, if you want to see some really good storytelling and some really amazing voice actors, you gotta watch it.
Okay. Well, I think you have both convinced me to sit down and watch the animated series. Okay. We're almost out of time, guys. I'm taking over. We're almost out of time.
Oh, God, we gave him a little bit of power. Look at him.
You gave me some power. Why don't you give your final statements about? I know we just gave a big final statement. Anything else you want to talk? Anything else you want to talk about? Bad Batch season 2. Obviously not.
Yeah,
Give him a minute.
You know what?
Chill out, boy.
I think we've covered pretty much everything. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think. It's like, what haven't we said? I think we got, I think we got everything.
Okay.
Nice.
Other than just maybe throwing in again, another. I feel like if D. Bradley Baker ever wants to take a break, I'll take over Wrecker's voice duties. Can we hit it now?
You can hit it now, Wrecker, honey.
I'll have to watch it to find out what he's talking about.
Maybe just do a little bit of Wrecker. Let's see. Oh geez, we got a little bit of Wrecker, a little bit of tech. This is highly logical. Since when? Or you know what? Here, I'm gonna make our listeners cry. Because I'll do Tech's last lines.
Aww.
Since when have we ever followed orders? It's like, dang it, that's a line to go on.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're not going, and I would say we're going to go on that line, but I've got some things I have to talk about real quick.
You got 2 seconds, sweetie.
I'll take 2 seconds. Okay. So if you're going to be in South Florida on Saturday, April 29th, West Palm Beach, specifically at the Mandel Public Library of West Palm Beach. That's at 411 Clematis Street in West Palm Beach, 33401. That's in Florida. Between 2 and 3 o'clock, Zion Kiros and myself are going to discuss all things Doctor Who. Yes, woo! Doctor Who. Woohoo! We love talking about Doctor Who here at Mark Who 42.
I'm sorry, what's the name of the library again?
Mandel Public Library of West Palm Beach.
Ah, okay. For a minute there, I thought it was the Mandalorian Public Library. Now I'm picturing somebody like the armor behind the desk. It's like, you have returned your booklet. You are excommunicated from the order.
Since we're talking Doctor Who, it's actually the Mandrells from Nightmare of Eden. But that's another story.
That's another story. Better.
So we're going to be talking.
I like mine better.
We're going to be discussing the 60 years of stories and look back at the memorable moments and changes since the popular show began. There is no registration required. It doesn't cost money. You just show up. For more information, call 561-868-7701. That's 561-868-7701. It's the Mandel Public Library of West Palm Beach on Saturday, April 29th from 2 to 3. One other thing I want to talk about, if you hopefully you'll listen to our show on Subspace Radio Network. We have new time slots.
What?
Woo-hoo! Yeah, because Subspace Radio Network has they used to be Odyssey Radio, then Odyssey Radio became something else, and they became Subspace and then Subspace Radio Network. Now Subspace Radio Network has retaken Odyssey. We're still called Subspace Radio Network, but we swallowed them up whole, kind of like what was the creature's name in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi? I mean, that was also
Sarlacc.
Sarlacc, yes. We have swallowed up Odyssey Radio like a
Odyssey. So Odyssey Radio is going to slowly be digested over 1,000 years.
Yes, it is.
And because they've taken some of the programming back, they had to switch the schedule. So let me go through that schedule with you. We are still on Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern time zone in the United States. Thursdays, we're no longer on Wednesdays. Thursdays, we're on 3 p.m. Saturdays, we're at the nice time of 12 p.m. And Sunday, we're kind of early in the morning at 5 a.m. on the Eastern Seaboard. Now in the UK, because I know we have a lot of UK listeners, Tuesday morning, our premiere show, we're still at 1 a.m. on Tuesday mornings. I'm sorry. But our next shows are perfect for you. Thursday, 8 p.m. So you can listen to the show like we do here on Mondays. You can listen to it on Thursdays there. Saturdays at 5 p.m. right after tea, you can listen to us. Or during tea, I don't care. Sundays at 10 a.m. So listen to us before you go and throughout your day. Those times are British summertime as we speak, guys.
I just want to know one thing. What time did they move Raoul's Wild Kingdom to?
Raoul's Wild Kingdom has been moved to Saturday at midnight. You have to stay, and it's only at that one time, so you have to stay up late. But it's a good
Saturday.
show, I hear. It's a very good show.
Well, you heard about what they're doing next episode.
What are they doing next episode?
They're going to teach us about how turtles are nature's suction cup.
Okay. I'm looking forward. It's Saturday at midnight here on Subspace, on the Subspace Radio Network. We're not on Subspace right now.
Yeah, making jokes about Weird Al movies is lost on you.
No, actually it's not. Actually, it's not. We're talking UHF, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I'm just playing along, Ed.
Yeah, you're a bad player, dude. You're just that was a bad play. That was very bad.
If you're watching us, which you can't be, I'm just sitting here, twiddling my thumbs, just trying to wait till this is over, till it's done.
Oh, shush.
Okay, so on behalf of everyone here on the Mark Who 42's Universe podcast, that would be myself, Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Freyre, and Vicky Jakubowski. We are going to say goodbye. Remember, next 2 weeks, we do not have new shows. If you're listening to us on Subspace Radio Network, we're going to have repeats, but listen in, they're going to be really good. And the following week, we're going on the week of the, I guess that would be the 24th. So the 24th would be the air date, and then 25th when the show comes out on the podcast. We're going to have another great show for you. But until then, bye, everyone. Ed, take the final word.
Yeah. I'm still thinking about Mandalorian Public Library. You know, the thing in my head now is somebody. You know what the thing about that one is I can just picture somebody with like an old VHS tape. You know, I've rewound the tape. This is the way.
Yeah. We're not the only ones. Just to let you know, we're not the only ones going to be there. The whole month of May is going to be a sci-fi event at the library, but we get to start it off on the 29th before everyone else gets started. All right, and I think there's and speaking of Star Wars, there's a Star Wars thing, I think at either 11 or 12. We'll get back to you on that. We'll put it on our webpage.
Nice.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening to Mark Who 42's Universe, featuring Mark Baumgarten, Eduardo M. Freyre, Vicky Jakubowski, and Zion Kuros. This show was produced and directed by Mark Baumgarten. If you'd like to get in touch with us, go to our Facebook page or email us at markwho42s.universe@gmail.com. Our radio show airs weekly on Subspace Radio Network at www.subspace.radio and on iHeartRadio. You can listen to our old shows at our website, markwho42.com, and many podcast platforms such as iTunes, Audible, and Pandora. And if you want to hear shows dating back to 2012 with over 150 celebrity interviews, try our YouTube page, Mark Who 42. Mark Who 42's Universe, copyrighted 2023.